Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of Tavern Talk. Uh, this is the Downtime episode where we're going to chat about what adventurers do when they're not adventuring. And weirdly enough, there are lots of rules for what adventurers can do when they're not adventuring. I am Ben, also known as Meta Mongoose, over on the Crit Cats Discord, and with me tonight is Sasha and Sfeet. We're going to be chatting about adventure downtime and how best to incorporate it into the game. So, just to start us off, the player's handbook and the DMG both have a rather decent amount of rules, though the rules are kind of vague in some respects, of how to do things when your party really has, is either finished an adventure or wants to get some like weird side projects in before, you move on to the next part of an adventure. But just as a DM, I know how often I have tried to squeeze some of that into a game. But as either fellow DMs or players, how often do you guys have you ever interacted with downtime mechanics in D&D?
Very little. Un poquito.
Same for both running and playing. A lot of the times downtime gets kind of waved over because people want to continue on instead of relaxing in one spot.
Mhm.
I have
People
I
want to
have
break stuff.
noticed that the downtime section of the book is by far, when it comes to like how to handle things in rules, is one of the more glossed over. Uh, Arguably, I guess, when the DM does it correctly, the players don't even know they're interacting with it at all. Um, because it's as easy as the DM going, okay, well, you want to do this thing, it'll take you, like 20 days, and you're gonna have to go get some resources or whatever. And that's arguably interacting with that system, but the players don't actually know that they're interacting with it. So it and then eventually when players become DMs, they may not even know that entire section exists, and then it just kind of just gets hand waved as a kind of gut
Mhm.
feeling. It's like
Yeah.
I feel that this should just work this way, so it does. As DMs are wont to do.
I've
But
had maybe one situation in D&D where we had to take a pause because of schedules, for an extended time, like a month or so. And in that time, we lost one of our core players, but then gained somebody else. And so we ended up doing like a time skip, but we're asked ahead of time, hey, what were you doing, say, in this like 3-month period as you waited for winter to finish? You know what I mean? So that way we were starting in the spring with these new people, and it would make sense. We had like a story of what happened, how did we meet this person, what happened to the old party member, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
um but it wasn't necessarily like a lot of the homework was done, outside of game, so that when we jumped into our new session zero with this like new configurement, we had something to kind of go from. But yeah, it's probably the only time I've really had that, especially with that amount of time in game but also out of game, whereas most of the time people are just worried about what their character is doing during like a long rest or something. Like we're not really thinking like long term. um yeah, I think time skips are a good way to do that, but they're not implemented enough, in my opinion.
yeah, and for some of these downtime activities, like here, as an example, the very first downtime activity in the player's handbook is crafting, right? And not the crafting magical stuff. That's the version that's in the DMG because they didn't want players to know they could just make magic items. Um, but players often ask, so we'll get to that. But just basic crafting of like I want to carve something cool. I want to make a desk, or something, whatever. Um, this is, if you want to build a barn or something along those lines. Uh, First off, you need to be proficient in the tool associated with the task. It's very broad in that respect. That's why we have tool proficiencies in D&D to interact with the crafting part of the downtime system. Is one of the reasons that everyone gets like one or two tool proficiencies to play around with. But also you need to get the materials, or if there's a specific location, like if you want to forge a sword, you're going to need a forge, and you're going to need your smith tools. Uh, there aren't really portable forges that you can just carry around with you,
Mm.
so it's a very location based downtime. And then for every day that you work on it, you can either make a 5 gold piece item, or you can put 5 gold piece worth of work and materials into a more expensive object. Now, their example would be like, in order to create a plate mail armor, which costs 1,500 gold pieces, it would take 300 days to craft plate mail. By the way this system works. And I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but I am positive it does not take a person a year to craft plate mail. I
Yeah.
could be wrong. I have never, forged plate mail before, but I I feel that at best we're talking like 90 days worth of work, from
Yeah.
start to finish. Like we're not.
And also, does this? Oh, go ahead.
I was, same with like chainmail, or something, even if you're sitting there, like with your little pliers squeezing together those little chain links, that's a lot of days.
It is. And also, like, I don't know because I haven't really read into the downtime stuff much, if at all.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, how it would, I think I would use it more if there was a clearer system that's like, oh, it's going to take you this many days, but here's the modifier from your stat block. You know what I
Right.
mean? That could
If
influence
you're
it. So it's
if you're
like,
a
say
master
I'm
armorer, it shouldn't take you this long.
Yeah. Or if like your strength is charisma or whatever, like writing that novel, will actually sell, you know what I mean? Whereas like writing the novel as a novice or somebody who has low charisma, you might only sell 2 books or none at all. You know what I mean? I think that
Hmm.
would be more uh what's the term I'm looking for, but it would be more immersive that way, if
Now
there
there
were
are a
those like
couple
stakes.
of ones that I would maybe use instead, when it comes to like the writing a novel option instead of the crafting. You could either run that under the second, um, the second kind of option in the downtime, which is practicing a profession. So like if you're a novelist as a profession, you could do that, and then if you do that, you get enough money during that amount of time to effectively pay out a comfortable lifestyle. And if you're proficient, it says here if you're proficient with like performance, you can arguably support a wealthy lifestyle. So you could use that in that regard if you wanted to
Yeah.
do that. There's also a one that in the DMG, that is called like running a business. That has a that if someone was like, I'm going to be a novelist as a business, and go find a publisher and do all this, or publish my book and everyone across the country will read it. I
Mhm.
might do that as like a run the business mechanic, version of downtime,
Mhm.
because that's based on your level, weirdly enough, and number of days worked. And you basically roll a D100 and add the number of days worked to it, and then there's a table that tells you basically if you've made money or lost money on your venture.
Mm. So you get to be done with like a tavern run, like where games that kind of exist in or around a tavern or, I think that's like the go-to starting a business that groups go to, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. Just because it's almost like guaranteed you're going to get customers just because they act as like not just a place for refreshment, but as a meeting house, a place to rest, so on and so forth. So, yeah,
Um,
it's
but
interesting.
yeah, no, I saw the practicing profession one, and that one is again very vague. And its payout isn't uh, is another thing that kind of hand wavy, because what it does is it basically covers your lifestyle expenses, which is another rule that no one ever really uses in D&D. Um, there is in fact a section, in lifestyle expenses where like you could pay for no lifestyle expenses and you'd live a wretched lifestyle, or one silver piece a day gets you a squalid lifestyle, and it goes up until like comfortable lifestyle is 2 gold a day. And wealthy is like 4 gold a day, and aristocratic is like 10 gold a day minimum.
Mm,
But theoretically, buying off these lifestyles uh, is one a way to leech gold out of the party, because I know that's what it's for. The problem is like the party usually draws in way more gold than these lifestyles eat up by themselves over time. But theoretically, depending on what lifestyle that you're using for each party member, they can interact with or unlock like new NPC interactions. If I remember correctly, uh, Sasha, when Saza was doing, she was arguably living uh, like a squalid lifestyle early on, because you were living in like a barrel underneath a bridge
Barrel. Yep.
in Waterdeep. Um,
nice.
It was
and
like some kind
then
of like whiskey barrel, I think,
yeah,
too.
it was
Something
just
like
like an
that.
old it's like an old ale barrel or whatever, uh, surrounded with like junk. Um, because you were an urban druid.
Sort of,
Mm,
yeah. It was the I remember that character because she was a goblin and she was an urchin and pretty much knew the city really well, and the campaign mostly stayed in Waterdeep, so
Hmm.
it was a barrel under the bridge. And yeah, so it was something like that. So it was kind of an urban style. She wasn't an urban druid, she was a Circle of the Moon.
Yeah, but I mean like just aesthetically, like your if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
like your vine
aesthetically
whip power
knew the
was
city.
like hook, like old
Fishing
fisher
hooks.
line and hook
Yeah.
traps.
Yeah, that's how she became a druid. Was she fell in the ocean in Waterdeep where it goes out towards the ocean. She fell there, and like a sea turtle druid saved her life, taught her how to be a druid. So her thorn whip is just braided fishing line with like fishing hooks that stick out of it. It's
that's
So
really
metal.
cool,
yeah.
right?
So yeah, it was a druid, but with like a little bit more uh,
I
polluted
gave her a lot of
landscape,
flavor.
city landscape feel to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and for lifestyle, like you guys never really paid much attention to lifestyle because you'd gotten the tavern in that adventure that you
Hmm.
had to run, and it kind of started generating like a modest or comfortable lifestyle for you guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
it did because we moved my barrel into the house.
right.
She still lived
Um,
in the barrel. It just was fancy in her own room.
yeah.
I love that.
Uh, but yeah, practicing a profession, there's a lot of ways you can go about this. Arguably, like, are you an artisan? Are you in the thieves guild? Uh, if you're a bard, are you a performer and you get your wealthy lifestyle? But like, these are things that you can ask your party. Like, are you, you know, we're gonna be in between adventure for a little while. I want to do some flavor. I want to interact with some NPCs in the city that you're home basing in. What do you guys do for you know what is your day job when you're not adventuring? And then
Hmm.
that gets players kind of thinking more about what their characters have done, what they will do, like what what kind of people they might run across, what kind of circles like they might socialize in, which could give the
Yeah.
DM either a way to maybe insert some NPCs into the adventure, or maybe unlock some or come up with some ideas for some that they didn't have before.
Mhm.
Yeah. There was one of my other games that I played a while ago, something that we did as a group is that we played together in person, but we had a separate Discord server where we'd communicate and everything in, but we had like a role play section. So like kind of in between game sessions, we would
Yeah.
have the downtime in between or something that's happening while we're doing things. It was actually really fun. It gave us a lot more character interaction and a lot more role play inside the game, not only outside of it, but like inside the game. Like we would talk about it and then we'd bring it up in the games. And then whenever we would have like those downtimes, we would actually talk about those little tidbits back and forth, and we would kind of actually role play more in character, which is something that is not very utilized, I don't think, because there's a lot of things that people have a lot of different quirks with their characters, different things that their characters do along with their personalities, and I think it's a lot of fun. I just don't see it very often. Like you can have
Hmm.
someone who's an archer and for fun they carve little figures
Mm.
out of wood, but they don't talk about it. Um so that would be something that is something that you do during downplay, and you're supposed to have characters interact with each other when they're bored and it's a watch and nothing's really going on. But a lot of the times a lot of parties just kind of hand wave it and go, "Okay,
Hmm.
well we're done."
Yeah.
I really do like the idea of having kind of like a side Discord or something for players to kind of just socialize, like not in a way that would mechanically matter in the adventure, but just to socialize between each other as
Mhm.
characters, and then have some of that, because some of that stuff doesn't come up in game, as you said, because you're busy doing an adventure, and it's not it's not relevant to the task at hand, or they're concentrating on not being eaten by monsters, to
Yeah.
get these
Pretty
interesting little
much.
story
Yeah.
bits out. But having a place for them to do that, and then like you said, have some of that spill over into conversation in the game later, because it's already been primed in the players, like
Yeah.
they've already done kind of the mental work
Yeah,
to kind of
exactly.
work it out how they would feel about each other when these things get
Mhm.
brought up. I
Hmm.
like that.
I
Yeah.
had
Yeah, it was
something
a lot of
similar.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I had something similar quite a few years ago, where we were using Discord for a lot of, yeah, that kind of stuff, and then leaving the combat for the calls, and one of the like side channels we had, one of them was like the town crier, so like the message board, what's going on, and it could be filled with either things we generated ourselves or something the DM was like, oh, this is it, like this is the weather, this is the plague, or this is like the political thing happening, and then we could also kind of add to that. And then in a different game, we had it was more of like a steampunk, diesel punk kind of setting where we had like a gossip rag. And but like the DM did it so that we didn't, they would always post to the rag. And we found out later in the campaign that the people who were like essentially the reporters for the DM were other players, but we didn't know that, but it like as things became more clear as the things went on, or every time we would come back to town, there's these like weird little flavors and things that kind of go through that. Somebody would be like, how did they know that I slept with the governor's daughter or whatever, you know what I mean? And it would like flavor the next like maybe combat, because all of a sudden we had this thing, it not quite out of our control, but just I guess like a consequence to what we were
Hmm.
doing in our downtime. And that was fun. Um, and again, I think if it's done in a way like that, it can really add to a game and add to the immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like mid class, like mid clandestine meeting, uh in like a bar getting your next mission, like some nobles kick down the door and are like, "That man came for my sister! Duel!"
Yes.
You're like, "I'm in the middle of a
Exactly.
meeting, guys. Like, I don't. I saw this. I saw this movie, this Three Musketeers movie. It went really well, but I'm in the middle of a meeting."
I'm busy. Yeah.
Exactly. Those ones are that's always just it's the fun kind of interaction that you really want in a game in general. That's why I've always liked it. So like whenever I've had that downtime, or at least I try to, because sometimes I'm just tired or whatever,
Mhm.
but I really want to have it where it's like when something's going down and like we're all quiet and everything, what's my character doing? Something my character would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Now
I
one of the
have a
down. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I have an artificer in another game. Absolutely door. Yes, it's another goblin. Don't judge me. And I have so many goblins. But anyways, it's the artificer goblin who is pretty much a lucky little thing. But whenever we're on our downtime, that's literally what they do is they're working on stuff, welding stuff, hammering stuff. It's literally what she does on her downtime because artificers usually are doing that on their downtime.
Making things.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
now one of the downtime activities that I felt was really weird and kind of like anti-purpose was the recuperating downtime activity. Um, so basically, one of the basic rules for it was like every 3 days of downtime spent, you can make a Constitution saving throw to end like effects that force you or end that prevent you from regaining hit points, or you can get an advantage on a saving throw versus disease or poison currently affecting you. And I was like, if a disease or poison has been affecting me for more than 3 days, I'm already dead or in
Yeah.
trouble in D&D. Like a lot of the things I've run across seem to have shorter, either much more effective time spans, or are handled by like the party's cleric before the end of like combat. Like even the
Yeah.
disease, is usually like a lesser restoration,
Cure
resolve,
wounds, something. Yeah.
instead of like having to spend days laying around not doing something.
On the flip side, I have had, I don't know why, but my character's always like, not always, but most of the time, they're the one that grabs like the cursed sword and stuff like that. And, like I once, I don't know, it was like some sort of cursed ring or something. And it would drain my hit points. Like it was like one a day or something. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but it was like,
It was a
it would
small
take
but
my
inconvenient amount.
Yeah, and when you're a lower level, it
Hmm.
means a lot. But even after trying to pawn the ring off on somebody else, like I couldn't get rid of this like degrading, health. And yeah, it's one of those things that the DM obviously was trying to feed us to go to this temple to blah 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 and all this other stuff, but it was kind of fun that over like 3 sessions or whatever, like I went from good to bad to worse, you know what
Right.
I
You're starting
mean?
to like
So,
waste away.
yeah.
But
And
that was
that's
more
like
of
the
like a
only
curse,
time.
though, right?
Yeah, I've never seen it done on like a disease or an injury or anything like that because, we use magic and you have a cleric or a paladin and away you go. So,
Right.
um yeah, but I think in other settings like they use like either a cursed sword, or if you're doing like say a very future space one, it's
Hmm.
maybe there's like a glitch in the software
Or
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 what
maybe
have
just like a
you.
low magic setting, uh, where they what if your DM's like no magic classes at all.
Yeah, I've done a
Um,
pirate one like that. Yeah,
mhm.
I've
it
done no
happens.
magic settings,
But
so I had to think of other stuff to do.
yeah, I have not run very many low magic settings, so like they're all just standard level D&D magic, not like super crazy. Like Everon's like the high magic setting where like everything is magic all the time. Uh, but I've been more like the standard middle ground, like D&D fantasy. I don't play around in low magic settings that often, because if I'm gonna do that, there's other game systems that I tend to use instead of D&D.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've also had a lot of I've had a few DMs that whenever they do the low magic settings, it's actually because in their world, magic is just starting out. So people are kind of learning about it because it's kind of coming through. So you're figuring the origin of it. And then eventually you have access to spells and spell-like abilities and all that fun stuff. So it's kind of also some DMs do it as a flavor. And then other ones are like,
Hmm.
no, no magic, period. And then you
Hmm.
have other games that are like you have magic, but it takes a long, long time to cast. So you
Yeah.
have to really prepare.
Or it's
You have
like
to,
banned by the government in your world or
hmm
whatever, you
Yeah,
know,
you have to be
which is
yep,
careful
always
that
about it.
too.
a fun way to play. Yeah.
Yep.
So it has to be more secretive or you're considered a cult, you know, if
Hmm.
you
Yep.
are caught using magic. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other ones, two of the other ones here, research. So you can do research to get, either learn about some upcoming adventure information or research on a personal project. Now that costs you, it says here, each day of research costs 1 gold to cover the expenses of the research, in addition to your lifestyle expenses, whatever they may be if you're using the lifestyle system. And then the DM kind of gives you like a little bit of little more knowledge than you would traditionally. So you could spend, like, if the DM's like, we're gonna take a week, between now and the next adventure. You'd be like, I would like to spend that week researching. Dock 7 gold from my expenses and give me a special note whenever we get on to the next adventure or
I mean, I did
something.
something similar to that. No, I'm not trying to spoil if nobody's watched Keep on the Borderlands, but there were a couple times where my character would have, say, the long rest, or we had time in town, or what
Mm-hmm.
have you. And I always made sure that they went back to the church because that's where they were raised. That's where, as far as they knew, where the wealth of information could be found. And so every day they're praying and they're reading the tomes and they're, buffing their armor. You know what I mean? And at the time, I didn't think too much about it, but I made a conscious choice to be like, no, this is something they would always do because they were indoctrinated into the church. They were saved by this church.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, they're going to be loyal in that aspect. And being a paladin, they're very disciplined. And it came in handy because then later, like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I got a little bump on some of my like history checks and things like that, which were super helpful. And, when we're trying to figure out, where or how or some things are happening, in combat, so it was a nice little flavor. And I think, yeah, as players, pay more attention to what your character would do during their long rests or their overnight stays. Even though it's a short time, I think that does help in the long run of like shape what kind of path your character takes in the future, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know that. That's why I love that stuff. A lot of it for me just kind of helps you express your character and what they do, how they think, how they go through things, what their kind of backstory is, because you want that a lot. You want your characters to interact because you're basically going to be a group and you need to be somewhat cohesive
Yeah.
in order to accomplish what you need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of games where I've been in where the party is not cohesive.
Yeah.
A
I have
lot.
run some of those games.
90% of them have been just from not players just not interacting. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where 90% of it goes. I'm not saying I haven't been bad like that. But that's usually how I've
Yeah.
seen it, and that's why I really like the downtime. So whenever
Hmm.
the other idea where I mentioned on Discord, that really just like lit up me thinking about my character, how they function, how they work, what they do, and it also kind of reverts into what they do during combat, how they think, how they work with the group, instead of a lot of other people where they just metagame and go, oh, my character can do this, so I'm going to make my character do that.
Hmm.
and it's a lot more intuitive, and it makes you be a little more creative when it comes to role playing. So that's why I think Downtime is probably something that's a lot more interesting and more vital when it comes to like actual group
Um,
interaction.
Now, one of the options here that again sounded cool until you actually read how it worked and then realized it was very inefficient, and I understand why a lot of people just kind of gloss over it. Is training. Now, this is not the kind of like training to like gain levels or anything along those lines, or to gain like new cool things like weapon skills or or new spells or whatever. This is uh, represents kind of getting new languages or tool proficiencies, as opposed to your like regular proficiencies or like the skill proficiencies and stuff like that. So in order to do this, first off, it takes 250 days, and each
What?
day costs you a gold. And at the end of that
What?
time, you get one new language proficiency or tool proficiency of your choice. So for 250 days and 250 gold, you can buy a new language
So
or
you
a
pay
new
for
tool.
MIT to become a nerd. Okay. Like, what?
Right. I was
Yeah.
like, that's not a good enough payoff for that kind of like downtime investment in a character.
No,
Mm-mm.
not really.
Um,
I can get for some stuff though, like maybe if you want your character to learn like a different language and that
yeah,
takes
but
time to
we
learn,
so
but
yeah, but see the
but
issue
for
there
how much it
is,
costs,
and
but
well here, let me pose this question to you. You've run games before. At any point in those games, did it matter what language anyone was speaking?
yes, it
Did it
did.
matter? Did it matter to the point where the party couldn't move forward because at least one person in the party couldn't speak the language of the thing that they were trying to interact with?
Yes.
What
Dang.
But
was this instance? I'm now
they
curious.
were
Dang.
they
I
were
know.
low level. They were low level. It was I think it was Draconic, and they were low level, and nobody knew Draconic. And I also had it where Draconic was very rare, so you couldn't just like, oh, I have a halfling bard that knows Draconic. Like you couldn't have it like that. So I made it where Draconic was a much more rare language, but I knew that it was still plausible.
Mm-mm.
Right.
But
But
nobody
what
came and talked to me about it. But we ended up having a party that also had um they were all low level at this point, and I was hoping that somebody studied it or learned it or had a character that went to it, and nobody did. This is also the same game where I had a paladin that didn't have religion because they weren't that kind of paladin, and I'm like, I had a cleric that didn't have religion because they weren't that kind of cleric. I'm like, come on. So
You're
it's
like,
same
I'm the
game,
cleric of jazz hands. You're like,
but like
same
what?
so
game.
so none of them spoke Draconic,
Uh huh.
and they ran into an issue where they needed to know Draconic to move the story
Yeah.
forward.
They did. I ended up having to obviously wing it. And then eventually, later on, by like maybe the next level or two, one of the party members had comprehend languages. I think one of them did. And then eventually they
So
just got
so
past
my
all language
question
barriers.
then would become, since you did actually run into a scenario where this might have mattered,
Mm.
would you would it have been relevant to them to basically cough up 250 gold and set fire to 250 game days, uh, to get somebody with Draconic? And you could just hand wave like the time. You could be like, we're going to spend the better part of a year so that you can learn Draconic because you couldn't talk to the thing you needed to talk to, or read the weird book you needed to read, or figure out the puzzle because it's in Draconic runes. who wants to cough up 250 gold and waste the better part of a year learning Draconic so that this adventure can continue?
Days, yes. Money, no.
Like it just seemed it seems like a lot, and I understand that like
It is. No,
realistically,
it's
sure, it
ridiculous.
does take the better part of a year to pick up the basics of a language, even in like an immersion setting.
Mhm.
But D&D has magic. Like I said,
Right.
I
I'm trying to
I
escape
personally may not
reality.
be able to cast
Like,
comprehend languages, but for
Right?
like 50 gold, I can go find a wizard
yeah.
who can cast me a scroll, or
Basically.
whatever.
Find
Uh,
somebody that speaks the language and then
right, or
make
I could
them
go
like
find a
their
translator and pay them like 5 gold,
I
and
uh
as long as I
I
keep
did
them safe, it's okay.
I did end up doing that to a degree, and some of the other ones because they still struggled with it, but they since they had comprehend languages, but I ended up giving them a kobold that spoke Draconic, I think it was. Or I had a no, I had the main baddie was with them in story plot reasons, and he translated everything for them because he was just using them for his means anyways.
But like I have used a translator in game before because I have also run across like a problem where like nobody in the party spoke Dwarvish, and they were going into like an old Dwarven forge where there would be Dwarven runes that arguably might help them a little bit more navigating the space. Um, and they hired a dwarf to like tag along with them to kind of you know keep an eye out for things that like weird traps or things that dwarves would use to protect their old abandoned forge, or like what does this say, and it's like bathrooms this way, kind of notes. um
That'd be so good if he had the dwarf just mess with them the entire time.
I mean, they were paying him, so he was cool, like, but like they weren't paying him a lot. It was like a
Mhm.
gold piece a day to hang out with them for like 10 days. It wasn't. I that's a way better, cheaper option than wasting a whole bunch of time and gold to like
And
learn
like
a
more than a year,
language.
like almost a full year.
Right,
yeah. The village could be gone in a year. Like what are we
right.
talking about here?
It's like
Like,
we need to know Draconic so we can negotiate with the dragon. Excuse me while I go spend a year learning Draconic. You come back and like the village is just gone. What
right?
happened? You didn't negotiate with the dragon.
Mhm.
Or someone to hold on, I gotta know how to speak Sylvan. I'll be back in about a year. Don't worry, the Fae will still be here.
Even worse, like trying to like learn a language that is not feasible in your immediate setting for the game. So like Abyssal and Celestial comes to mind because they're so rare even in the best of games, you know what I mean? Like to come across. And it's like, yeah, I played a tiefling, and even though I played a tiefling, they don't know a bit like they don't know Abyssal. They know Infernal, but Abyssal is
Right,
like a whole other ball field, and it really depends on their
right.
where
It's
they
like
came from.
it's like I know Spanish. That means I can learn Italian. Eh, they're close to each other physically, but not really linguistically.
Yeah. And are we talking New World Spanish or Old World
Right.
Spanish? Yeah.
And what dialect?
Oh, oh my Lanta, yeah.
It's like
I would know
I,
some petty TMs that would be like, yeah, so you gotta speak this language. Great. What dialect are you speaking in? I'm sorry? Dialect?
That's when
yeah.
you just like
How's your
throw
how's your
the
Catalonian?
dice
Yeah.
out of here with that.
Like, you speak
Uh,
French. You speak the Cajun dialect? Get out. Get out. You know where the door is.
hmm
But yeah, I don't think I would waste that much time and coins on that. Or same thing with like before about the building the breastplate, I wouldn't take that long at all.
Right.
I
Like
mean,
just go on an
even for
adventure. You'll
artificers,
find some breastplate like laying around,
right?
or you'll just
Yeah.
get some money and you'll come back and buy it. Like it's fine.
Like even then, like
Yeah.
as like artificers need that downtime in order to make the items and make their like infusions and stuff like that. In order to accomplish that, they have to have downtime in order to do it. So,
Right, but the thing about like the artificers, they seem to get away with like not needing excessively long downtime. Like their class features are just like,
yeah,
yeah, if you
you
spend some
literally
if
take
you
that
spend like a
time
couple
and
of days,
got
like
it.
you get a cool thing.
Yeah,
It's
like
kind of like dwarves in the forge, yeah.
and they have it where like you take those like, oh, it's 200 days to make this, but since I'm an artificer, it takes me a couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks, it's fine.
But I could
Yeah.
see how, like, if you're maybe in an adventure and you're not doing it every single day, and if you are, you're only doing it for maybe 4 hours because you have to have an 8 hour rest. And like a lot of the older ones, you had to have an 8 hour long rest in order to have everything go through
Hmm.
normally. So they didn't really count downtime in there, and 5e's kind of a lot more of downtime is okay because you have your long rest and your short rest where you don't have to sleep, you just have to be not doing anything. More like not something strenuous,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, if I
Right.
remember that right.
Hmm.
That's
So it's
fair.
not like
But
you can
yeah.
get, yeah, so it's not like you can get combat training during a long rest.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I guess a good example of some more downtime stuff is probably like Lord of the Rings type stuff. When you watch the Lord of the Rings movies and they actually sit by their campfires and stuff, that's kind of where I envision like downtime really happens,
Hmm.
where they talk, they interact with each other, and some of them are doing some of their own things while they're there, or they're having therapy sessions with Gandalf. It's one of the one of the
Yeah.
For
two.
real though.
But yeah, that's where I see a lot of it, and I think it's very fun and entertaining and useful. But the mechanics make it seem like you never have time for it, so you have to spend so long doing it. And I'm like, man, I would love to have downtime be available if we're all in a wagon and you're sitting in a wagon not doing anything. I mean, granted, it's not like you could sit there and um, like forge glass or something while you're doing that. But,
Right.
if you're doing something where it's like reading a book, maybe you're studying, maybe you're
I'd like to be able to play the
practicing
dice
stuff.
game,
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Do
like
stuff like that.
anything.
Like downtime stuff. Yeah, actually, downtime stuff would be fun where you could interact and have like
Hmm.
mini games and stuff too.
Well,
That would actually
about
be a fun
that,
one.
so those ones previous were all the ones that were in the player's handbook. So like those are the ones that they give players as like an idea of like what you can do with your downtime, right? Now, when you move over to the DMG, there are a few more options, and they are a little more specific and a little bit more fun, I think. Um, so the first one, very popular, at least in the older editions of D&D, and now again here in the fifth ed times, building a stronghold.
Hmm.
Uh, as you know, now that they introduced the new bastion system, but this is a common downtime esque activity that's been around forever. Uh, One of the things that like old first and second edition fighters got, like once they got high enough level, was like, congrats, you get a keep that you now get to
Hmm.
manage, and the game turns into like a base management simulator, in
Hmm.
addition to going off and adventuring on occasion. um, like I said, there is of course a chart for this of how much time and money you have to, get the land from somewhere, whether that's a deed given to you from the local like king, or purchased or given to you for saving the land, whatever. Or you may just inherit it, as if your DM's like, hey, it's time for you guys to be murder homeowners instead of murder hobos. Um, your
We did
uncle
that.
died, your aunt died, whatever, and gifted you the family keep. You're going to have to move
Mm,
over there and take care of it. And now you have to start dealing with adventures in the lands of your ancestors because someone's got to, keep the keep.
mm. It's true. And also kind of
Um,
like in, you know, that last campaign we did, we just helped out the local keep so much that they were like, "Hey, stay here and be our hired help that like
mhm.
lives here and helps." So like it was like, the money got exponentially more expensive of what we had to donate to the keep, and we had to make some decisions as like, are we going to invest in like ballistas, or are we going to just like throw money at them, or various things that I think we probably could have dove into that more, but I think we were
Well,
combat hungry,
I
so
think well, also like by the time it became a real like base management sim for you guys, the Bastion system was still kind of like in its proto infancy,
yeah.
because that was like mid like 2024 rules changeover. Um, so I don't know how easy it would have been to kind of like go back and kind of overlay some of that into what
Yeah.
you guys were doing already. But
Yeah.
yeah, there are I so the first there are a lot of games I have played, and in the Bastion Tavern Talk we did, I brought up like one or two of the old like dungeon magazines that from like the second ed era that they kind of give you a keep and let you play around with it and kind of work on like
Mhm.
that base management sim, like itch that needs
Mm.
scratched every now and again. But the first fifth edition like published adventure that really dove into the opportunity for the base management sim was the Waterdeep Dragon Heist, because that gave the party
Right.
a tavern like right out of the gate,
Mhm.
like mid,
It did.
like right after like the intro chapter. You made Volo's day. He was really happy with you, and this really cool like NPC was like, "Here's the deed to a keep in town, or a tavern. I don't want it. It's old, and I got it from a friend, and I'm not gonna take care of it, so it's yours now." And then you get Troll Skull Manor, and you get to fix it up and figure out if you want to make it into a tavern again, or if you want to like turn it into a guild house, or just turn it into your base of operations, or just it was very unclear. Like they did have some rules in that adventure for if the party is going to run it as a business, they need to talk to the business guild in Waterdeep, and there's there's an ale guild that you have to talk to get your ale purchases done, and there's a food guild that you have to talk to get
Mhm.
your wholesale food materials for your kitchen. And here's this other, like, you got to go to the carpenters guild and talk about repairs. And there were a lot of like these side businesses to contend with, but no one ever really interacted with them because the party just kind of decided not to run it as a business,
Yeah,
or
our
at least
party
mine.
that party was weird. That party was weird, not gonna lie. That party was weird.
They decided to turn it into kind of like a weird guild hall, uh, of sorts, but didn't, like I say, interact with a lot of the ancillary bits of Waterdeep the way I was kind of hoping they would at some point
Yeah,
during downtime.
I actually had a separate party where we actually did really interact with a lot of Waterdeeps, like, oh hey, we want to turn this into a business, so we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and blah blah blah. It required a lot of money, it required a lot of resources, it required going to the community, and and it basically we did a lot of like bounties and stuff to like help with the town, and then some of it got funded through that, and we ended up using that to open up the tavern. and had it renovated and redone and all that stuff. So that was actually a lot of fun where we actually took it and we revitalized it, turned it into a giant tavern and slash inn, and it just became a really big like booming business for us because then we would go out on adventures and then we would come back and we kind of made it somewhat of our headquarters at the same time. So it was a lot of fun to be able to actually do that.
Yeah.
Granted, I think that was actually it was I think the Troll Skull Miner was like a 5e concept, but we were in a 3-5 game. Which is
Well,
weird, but
I'm pretty sure Troll Skull Manor was. I mean, it's a part of Waterdeep, so it's an actual like named location in Waterdeep. So theoretically, many of the additions have probably crossed paths with that structure on more than one
Mhm.
occasion.
But yeah, we ended up actually doing a lot of stuff with it. So we even had a different one that was with the same Troll's Skull Manor,
Yeah.
where our whole main concept is that we were intending on it to being a business in general. And so we most of the campaign was us getting it set up, getting it ready to go, and that was most of our campaign. Because my
Yeah.
character was, yes, another goblin and another druid, but this one was the ale maker that used hallucinogenic mushrooms to infuse the alcohol with.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite characters I've ever made. And so she lived in the cellar and she would grow her mushrooms there, and all of her work was done down there. So that was one of my favorites on that. So yeah, I've utilized that one quite a bit.
You may
And
not
also
be
same thing.
surprised to learn that Waterdeep is extremely mapped out.
Mm.
There's an interactive map online, and you can go block by block. And if any location in that town has been mentioned in any adventure across any of D&D, it is marked on that map with all the information you could possibly want on it.
Hmm.
So it is a really weirdly like vibrant living town in D&D, because there is not a single block in that city that doesn't have something that you can mention to your players as you're walking around.
Basically. And it's a lot of fun. It actually was.
um,
That was a lot of fun to do.
and with that, one of the things, and you'd mentioned earlier, sweet, like having like games that you can play like in as downtime. There is a section in the DMG's downtime activity for carousing, which is represents
Shenanigans.
uh, partying, drinking, gambling, or anything else they want to do that helps them cope with the perils they face on their adventures.
Yeah, so like what we do with
Big
D&D. Yeah,
quotations.
okay.
Um, but
Ah,
basically,
sweet reality, got it.
the general rules for this are that the player must maintain a wealthy lifestyle for the entire time that they are carousing, so 4 gold per day, um, minimum. And then they roll a D100, add their character level, and then there's a carousing table that ranges from ending up in jail to winning a small fortune in gambling. Now, this is a very boring way to handle carousing, in my opinion. There are a lot of really cute little uh, quick, simple dice games,
Hmm.
card games that can be played back and forth. There's social issues that can come up in carousing, uh, NPC friends that can be made that I think are better served than just rolling a D100 and consulting a chart.
I agree. In fact,
And in at least one or two of my games, I have used there was a simple little dice game, basically called like Halflings and Giants, and it used like two different kinds of dice, and one person was the giant, or there was a one dice represented the number of the giant, and then the other two dice that were smaller represented the halflings, and the goal was basically to roll maybe more than the bigger dice roll the number. The halflings 2 dice had to roll a number that was bigger than the giant's number, but not too big, or else the giant would eat them. Like if you got like max, if you got like an 8 on 2d4, then you rolled basically the giant's mouth and it would eat you. And if the giant rolled a 1, it would kick the halflings and you would lose. Because you can't,
Fascinating.
like a 2 will automatically beat a 1 on a d8, or 2d4. A 2 on a 2d4 will get beat by a, but that's a, you can't you'll always beat a 1. So the 1 is like a dealer wins number. And it was like a
Yeah.
little mini gambling dice game that was really fun to play, that I could play with all of my players at the table. It's like who wants in on
Ooh.
halflings and giants, and
Oh.
we'd roll it, and the gold could change hands. They could bid on outcomes. It's a tangible dice game that isn't 100% based on like a proficiency that they could game the system on, because it was an actual gambling game with actual odds.
Yeah. We had a
Um,
casino in one of ours that we did in Discord, using like a
mhm,
Discord bot. And that was really good because like one of the players owned a casino, or like they inherited a casino from like their parents, and
Cool.
that was a cool way because we could have NPCs. We used tuppers or whatever. You could have NPCs also affecting like how much the house was winning or losing at any given time, with
mhm.
having like card games and dice and stuff, and like roulette. And it was also a great way to have, say a player character comes in, has a horrible gambling addiction. Like that's an easy way and a believable way to have them to lose all their coin. And the only downside is we couldn't. I wished I had found a bot that we were able to, modify a little bit. So say if somebody has like the lucky feet, maybe they would get a second chance at,
Right, they get like
all their
advantage
rolls or
on
whatever.
their
Hmm.
gamble or
Yeah,
whatever.
so I do wish there was that, but it was nice to have at least something kind of tangible that like everybody could check and be like, oh, like I lost this, so maybe that's why I go into this next adventure like miffed, or maybe I come out victorious, and so now I have a false sense of bravado, for the next event,
Hmm.
so that was cool, and that's an interesting way to do it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I like the carousing downtime like feature. It lets me, uh, you know, the party can go on like a walking drinking party through town and get into all kinds of trouble, or
A bar
uh,
crawl.
yeah,
Yes.
just like pub crawl through town.
It's yeah, it's like the movie, what is it? At World's End. It's one of the
Yeah.
Cornello series. It's like that because they bar hop. That's literally what it is. It's like a whole trail to go. So yeah,
Um,
I would do
but
that for
yeah.
a fun one shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, in the realm of things that players are always begging for, there is in the downtime section a spot for crafting magic items.
Mm.
Now, it is not used heavily, usually because the DMs don't know that this is in the book, because they come from the player's handbook and they don't know that there's also downtime activities in this book, the DMG as well. But the rules are very simple. In order to create one, you must have a formula of some kind describing the construction of the magic item that you're trying to make. So whether the DM says that the player has to like craft that on their own, or go find research it ahead of time, use a different downtime activity like research to find the plans necessary, or to draft up the plans necessary to make one. They could do it that way if they wanted to stave off the magic item creation as long as they possibly could. Because once you let players start making magic items, it can go downhill rather quickly if you're not careful. You have to be very, very careful. Um, but then once they have the formula, they have to have the spell slots and the ability to cast any spells the item can produce. So if it's like a wand of lightning bolts or something, you have to be able to actually cast lightning bolt.
Mm.
Um, so there's or if it's a lightning sword or something, you have to have like some relevant electrical magic spell that you could claim kind of you're infusing into the. You can't just be like, well, I don't know anything about lightning magic, but I've always wanted a wand of lightning bolt, so I'm just gonna make one of those. And like, you don't know anything about lightning magic. How are you gonna make one?
Mm.
You know. Then they must be a there's a rarity table, so like that way you can't have like a low level character making a legendary item or an artifact. The certain level ranges can only make certain rarities of magic item, and then once all those requirements are achieved, that's when you get to start working on the item.
Hmm.
And then each day that you spend working on the item costs 25 gold, and basically that just subtracts from the cost of the item until the item's value is paid. With
Mm.
consumable items like scrolls and potions have their cost halved. So, a 50 most potions are 50 gold, so if you're crafting a potion, you could arguably craft it for 25 gold and a day or so of, working
Hmm.
per potion.
Is this cover like repairs as well?
For
Like
magic
repairing
items,
or yeah, repairing magic items, or like in the case of my last campaign where we were reassembling something that we found a relic and kind of had to have our dwarf forge it back together. Um,
uh
because
theoretically,
we did take some downtime for that in game,
um
which was actually
if it was
helpful
a
because it
magic item, then yeah, something like this would be more relevant than like the profession ability from like the player's handbook where you're, you know,
yeah.
or your crafting ability up top, um, where it's non-magical crafting. Magical crafting is more expensive, obviously,
Mhm.
because it costs 25 gold a day instead of like 5 gold a day.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh my gosh, in this economy?
Right.
Right?
And imagine like how expensive magic items are. Like a basic +1 weapon is a like an uncommon magic item, and those are like 500 gold.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the cheapest I've seen like a plus one anything was like 250,
So
and
like
that was just because it's like a not even a widely used weapon. You know what I mean?
right,
It was like something like a cutlass, or I can't
but you're
remember.
but you're
Like maybe
looking
it
at
was a
like
plus one
5 to
dagger.
10 days to make the most common of magic weapons. Plus, you still have to pay the entire gold cost of a normal magic item. So it's not cost beneficial. It's not like you're getting it on a discount,
Yeah.
which is why traditionally players, once they do learn about the actual magic item crafting rules, immediately either beg the DM to do something different, or or they just say, never mind, we're not crafting magic items, we'll just go get them in treasure.
We'll just try to find them. Yeah. I'm in the
uh,
camp of
which
just trying to find them.
which is both in my opinion good and bad, because on the one hand, you don't get you don't have to constantly field requests from like your party spellcasters who want to keep cranking out magic items left and right instead of doing an adventure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also kind of lose the ability to get characters who want to have very custom made magic item, like bespoke magic items just for them or the party, that like have real meaning as opposed to just
Mhm.
something they pulled out of a corpse in a dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or having to constantly juggle like, I think this magic item will be cool. I left it in the dungeon. The party's like, "Yep, I want it so that I can sell it." you
Yeah.
know, and you're like, "But I put it there for a reason, guys." And they're like, "Yep, for money." And you're like, "No, no."
You're like,
You're
don't
like,
sell this
no,
one.
no, that was for your story. That was the main item you were trying to
Um,
look
That
for.
that's when you're
No.
like, this is priceless.
right. Um, Now, fourth edition D&D had I guess it a way to make the selling of magic items less relevant to players. Uh, because like if a party would run across a cat, yes. Uh, but no, if the party would run across like a hammer or something, and the party's fighters like, I don't fight with magic hammers. I fight with magic swords. There was a system in place then where you could basically just transfer the magic from one item to another. So you could just be like, this magic hammer is now a magic sword because we transferred the magic from one to the other. It's just fine. Uh, Fifth Ed D&D doesn't really have something like that per se, but I mean, I've definitely used that on occasion in my Fifth Ed games anyway, just because it's a good system to kind of let the party keep cool things, but kind of reform them in things they would actually use.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I do like the ability for players to make like little bespoke magic items without having to have an artificer on hand to do it for them.
Hmm.
But
That is true. You can also have it where you've had items and you're like, this item is very important and you describe it and everything, and then party just looks at it and we're like, well, I don't use this. Does anybody else use this? No. Huh. Just like throws it. All right, put it in a bag. We'll sell it later. Just like, no, we needed that.
yeah, let's see. One of the other uh, downtime activities that didn't get a lot of play is this gaining of renown. So there's
Mm.
actually, so not only is there a renown system in fifth edition D&D that players mostly don't know exist, and most DMs don't know exist either. Um, but in order to
Oops,
like
thank you.
do stuff in downtime, like you can do things in game to gain renown, I guess. Like they're in the little mini adventures that used it briefly. There were little like faction missions you could do to increase your renown in your faction. If you did the little mission, it would bump it up by like 1 or 2 on the tracker. But there is a
Mm.
downtime ability as well, where you can basically spend time hyping yourself up in your organization effectively, like going to meetings and be like, aren't I cool? I've done cool things. You guys should recognize me because I'm cool. And you spend a number of days equal to your current renown multiplied by 10 to increase it by 1. So if you have like 3 renown, you have to spend a whole month trying to hype yourself up to get to that 4th renown point.
It sounds like
Yeah.
way too much work.
Yeah, I was like, just have one bard.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, that's even if you
like,
use like a bard to hype you up. Like he's got to work like a month to get people to recognize that you're cooler than you already are. And I was like, I have a better idea. Let's just do a mission for the faction, and then that will raise our renown, and we will get treasure out of it, or
mhm.
something that progresses the story forward. So like gaining renown as a downtime activity, or the renown system in general, was very ill developed, or just half baked, I guess. It needed more time in the oven to, or at least it needed more adventures that at least dabbled with it, other than like the 1 or 2 that we got before they just stopped using it altogether. And maybe they just
Mhm.
decided that it wasn't worth the hassle, which is why they stopped using it altogether.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was a system that could have lent itself to some interesting like interactions with NPCs that were more like the party could make interactions happen more by just playing the renown card. If a DM wasn't like giving them good face time with certain NPCs within an organization, they could be like, I don't know, man, I hit renown 3 the other day. It says here on the chart that, at least I get a meeting with the boss.
Yeah. I've never, like I said, like used a like an actual renown kind of thing, but we've done things very similar to it in different kinds of games. Um, One we kind of called like our trust rank within the town. So, because like going into this one setting, we didn't know who to trust essentially. But as you do things for certain factions or for certain, say, nobles in this, city, uh, you gain the trust of whoever benefited from that task or from that mission, and that's kind of how we've done it in the past. And it's more so it just like opens up more, say, conversations, or that kind of, like, I don't want to say skill tree, but like that little avenue into more options or more places we could go within the city, you know so I wish the renown system worked better, because I do like that kind of flavor in games. Especially because, like I said before, I've played a game where there was like a message board in the town that you could always check, and it was updated by various jobs,
Mm-hmm.
news, all sorts of stuff. And you always wanted to have like a positive thing on your uh, a positive outcome. You never wanted to be on a wanted sign on the message
Right.
board. You know what I mean? Yeah, you always wanted to avoid that.
Well, one of the things I really liked about the renown system when I first saw it, and the implementation it had in like those little Adventure League games that I was running that used it, was not everyone in the party had to be tied to the same faction.
Hmm.
So you could have like one person in the party who was a member of the Harpers, and one person in the party who was, tied to the Zentarum for some reason, or one person who was in the Emerald Enclave. All these factions within the Forgotten Realms were the basis, like the Lord's Alliance, whatever. All these things that they were using because they were named factions within the Forgotten Realms, but you could flavor them toward. Oh, my cat has decided to come join me.
Mm.
Come
Oh, my heart.
here. But anyway, uh, she she interrupted me there for a moment. The factions. So every adventure had different missions for the faction, for each of the factions that the party could take part in, that would raise the standing of any members of that faction within the party.
Yeah.
And some of those missions conflicted with other missions for other factions.
Oh, yeah.
Because some factions don't get along. Like,
Yeah.
uh, famously, the Harpers and the Zentarum do not get along. Uh, so if you did a Zentarum mission, that would raise some faction, for your Zentarum party members, but it would probably make the Harpers mad and maybe lower the renown of your. So you'd have to like do like an interplay with that, maybe, if you had players who did split factions in your
Yeah.
party. Or it gave a reason for the party to like go around and maybe interact with various factional politics in the area. But again, it was not nearly as well developed as I would have liked.
Hmm.
I wanted it to be much much more than it was, and then
I want
eventually,
political espionage. You
right.
know what I mean? Like yeah, like I've only been able to like really play with that in one of my games that was yeah, like that steampunk, diesel punk kind of setting,
Hmm.
you know. And that worked because you had this, you know, area that was very advanced in technology, but they also outlawed magic within the city limits to keep their status as being like the ruling class, you know what I mean? And so you have, you know, all these things break out because of that, and I would love to play with that more, but it's not as exciting to some players because it's not very combat heavy and it's more like strategy and whatnot. And I think that is the main reason we don't see a lot of these like downtime activities being fleshed out is because yeah, they just want to smash and grab and be murder hobos, and it takes a lot more brain power to like, you know, write this like novella of a backstory for your character and why they're doing stuff, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I get it, I get it, you know. um
Yeah, and
but
it's
yeah.
it's also
Yeah,
hard on the DM side of things to basically hook players and kind of keep their attention on the narrative in a game. It's it
Yeah.
has become harder and harder as the years have gone by. I've noticed, but it's sometimes you find people who are just really really into it, and those are the you get a nice group
yeah.
together and you're set.
I Yeah,
Hmm.
that actually has been something that happened in one of my more, excuse me, recent games, is that a lot of our role play stuff has gotten a lot better because we have players coming together that want that role play interaction more than they want to smash and grab, murder hobo, murder homeowner, more than they want to sit there and adventure and game and take all the stuff that they want to take for their loot and everything, because there's a lot of players out there who tend to play D&D like it's a video game and just want to be like, I don't care, just give me the loot. What can I get that's a stronger weapon for me, or what can I get that's better armor, or something along those lines. And it really kind of just depends on the players, really. But yeah, I actually have all things. It's a Star Wars game where we're
Mm.
Yes.
actually role playing and interacting with each other. Um, but yeah, it's actually a lot of fun because our characters are actually interacting with each other. We actually have a group of people who are being interactive with each other and talking and communicating, pointing out my character's doing this thing, so that's
Awesome.
your cue to react to it and go, why is your character doing that? Because my Star Wars character's kind of kooky. I'm really good at making those kind of characters. But yeah,
Um,
it's that kind of fun interaction that makes the game more memorable. And then you have the DM we have for it is a fantastic DM because he goes into a lot of detail. He really grabs you, like he really gets your attention and does the plot hooks that really get us as a group together. And it's a lot of fun because he'll go into gritty details. He goes in description and really brought or brings an atmosphere to our game because it's kind of a
I have my novel
horror-esque
open.
Star Wars game to a degree. It's been a lot of fun. So
that's
yeah,
cool.
I enjoy games like that.
Um, Speed, I got a question for you. You're Paladin in the Keep on the Borderlands game.
Hmm.
Did they ever do any of the performing sacred rites downtime?
I want to say yes, because I
So,
did have this moment where my sword glowed and it was like a moon touched blade. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
But that was like mid
After I did
combat,
the
right?
rites.
Or was that like a
No,
downtime thing?
no, I had to do it in the temple before we left for our next
Okay.
mission. And so then once it did that the first time, I like made a mental note of like, oh, well, the prayers must be working. I'm going to make sure I do this every time I come back to the keep, you know?
So
Yeah.
one of the notes here for like performing sacred rites is any character considered pious can choose to perform sacred rites and gain favor from their chosen deity. It takes 10 days and the character gains
Oh,
inspiration for 2d6 days afterwards.
Interesting.
Is like the little line that you get from this, and I don't know if that is similar, but I as a DM I would do it differently. I don't know if
I feel
inspiration is
like
worth wasting 10 days.
no, and I did get some sort of like boost. I'm really trying to remember what it was. It was like really abysmal compared to, the rest of the party, but for my character being what would we start out at, like level 3 or something, like
Yeah,
it was super beneficial to uh just have any kind of boost, because I don't know if you watched, but I was consistently rolling nat ones through
there
nat
was a lot of
6.
that.
it
Yeah,
was it was
I know that
rough.
pain. I know that pain.
So
maybe the inspiration would have been beneficial to you then. You would have gotten
yeah,
advantage.
yeah, but I definitely got like I think I got like guidance or something, which was helpful because, like, weird things would happen when we were just traveling to the next mission, you know what I mean? And since I was kind of like the party tank, it definitely did help, like a skosh, not like I was afraid of dying immediately, but it helped me to then have that breathing room to then protect the rest of my party members who were,
Yeah.
like, look at our warlock had like zero body armor. So, it was like I had to work double time to make sure like she didn't get killed every session. Um yeah. It's like, please don't die. I know you have Eldritch Blast, but please don't die.
Please don't die.
We really need this. So yeah, it's interesting, how it was played, but yeah, I definitely got some sort of boost, and it also wasn't very long, so it was like maybe an hour of game time, which would have been about the distance it takes for us to travel from the keep to, say, the caves or something, so I think he adjusted it well to work. I think I would have been frustrated if he was like, all right, now in 10 days, I'd be like,
Yeah.
screw you, dude. Like, what? Like, this is
Well, see, a lot
stupid.
of, like that is my problem with a lot of these downtime activities is they put like arbitrary long day timers on a lot of them, and I'm like, look, man, the party's not going to be downtiming for that long, or if they are, like I'll just arbitrarily say that that's how long it took them. Like I don't need like the party's resting for the night and doing a cool thing. Like I don't need to say, "Oh, well, you didn't do it for 10 solid days. You don't get your little bit of advantage."
Yeah. Now I understand if you're playing like a monk or something, and you know the whole like patience and meditation thing is kind of like baked into your character. But
Mhm.
even then, I would probably adjust everything, or make wave off the time, but maybe adjust some of these downtime things to the other activities that are happening, you know? Um, yeah, yeah, the only thing I could see some of these timelines working out for is probably for monks or clerics, because they do have to have those like concentration based things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my opinion, but
Yeah, that is
it
true. That
still
is
wouldn't make it as
downtime.
long though. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
still wouldn't make it quite as long. It just seems like ridiculous, because it's like, what are
Hmm.
they going to do? Are they gonna just meditate for 10 hours a day? Like, what? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's like the requirement stuff. I remember back in like I think it was 3.5 where it was pretty much every prep caster had to either have their meditation or their pray or something like that for an hour in order to have their spells for the day,
Hmm.
which I also consider downtime
Yeah.
as
I'd
well
pray
because
for
you
an
can.
hour every morning.
You
Yeah,
have
I
to
prayed for an whole
have to do
hour.
your
Yeah.
brunch study every morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Or like
I just
as
see a
for like
wizard
the
eating toast going through a tome.
Yeah, or like for my character, since I was they were loyal to Salune, part of Salune's worship is like dance and like dancing nude in the moonlight kind of thing. And I was like, well, if the moon's not available, I'm just gonna go to the temple and dance anyway there, since that's a sacred space. Since I can't go
Hmm.
to the forest and I can't get to the moon, I'm gonna meet it halfway. but it just, yeah, in my mind's eye, like, it looked so ridiculous. I'm over here doing Sailor Moon transitions in the middle of a chapel.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, what is happening?
That's
And they even
fantastic.
the DM had even like, yeah, had even narrated part of that. It was like, oh, if like any of the random, people that are either working in the chapel or passing by or just see this, kind of legendary sight and they don't really know what to make of it because, they don't also follow Salune that just happens to be here. Yeah, which I thought was really fun flavor, so kind
Yeah.
of added that layer on to like why my character appears so insane, and like it's like, no, it's for the moon, really.
I promise. And then they just hear make up.
It's like dun 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 dun, and they're like, what is happening?
Exactly.
Okay,
Nice.
bye. Lap warmer
So,
literally.
but yeah, in other sections of downtime for the DMG, they do have a section on how to run a business. There is a chapter on running a business.
I figured
Uh,
that might come up.
Hmm.
it I mean it's not as again it's a lot of these are underbaked. I think personally, it's a very similar. Spend a number of downtime days working the business. Roll a D100, add the number of days you worked. There's a result table that tells you how whether you lost money, made money. Uh, Statistically, I think they did the math. There's about a 60% chance of not costing the character money,
Hmm.
and about a 40% chance, uh, specifically, that it makes you an actual profit.
Yeah. I think I would prefer it to be more like experience or like event based. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you want to start a business, you have to roll to pass certain checks to see if you succeed in just that instead of
Right.
spending the time or whatever. Because I think that'd be more realistic
And I
and
think
easier for people to wrap their heads around. You
and
know
I
what I
think the
mean?
Bastion system resolves some of that, like the newly designed Bastion system, because each section of the Bastion has associated skill rolls to do things. And
Yeah.
I think one of the sections of a Bastion is kind of like a little mini tavern, and it has the ability to make money if you do the appropriate like skill rolls that would a tavern running would require.
Yeah. That makes more sense to me. And I would love if they revamped that system because I would love to retry like a business based campaign,
Mm.
like I enjoyed the casino that was like a total side plot in my other game, by the way, but oh my god, I got so into it because it was just like really fun, and I was like, man, what if I just did a campaign where we're running a casino and there's like a heist going on and other things that you have to like worry about, like, but it's
If
not
you ever
really
want to run a
delved into.
casino in a D&D game, uh, the
We
the
did that. I did
we
this.
did
I did this before, Ben.
well
I think I
we
remember this.
in the Outlands game that we were playing. Um, the adventure book has a casino map because you do eventually get to like heist a casino.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And I love that casino map, and I'm glad that I own like a high res digital copy of that. uh, because I'm going to get it printed out someday and laminated and just be like, oh, we're running a casino. I got
Hell yeah.
you tell me who's running each table. We got them all laid out here. We got the slot
Oh
machines. We
my
got the giant
god.
wheel. We got the whole thing. We got the bar over here.
God. And just one of the slot machines is actually a mimic. Sorry.
Um, most most of them
Like,
were
Most of
Modrons
them
actually.
are.
In the adventure, all the slot machines were Modrons.
My favorite thing was I did a slot machine, pulled it, and then I got a bucket full of teeth, and I traded. I traded some of the. I think I traded the teeth for a beholder, a baby beholder bicuspid. I think is what it
Yeah,
was.
from a hag. There was a hag
From a
sitting there
hag.
at the slot machine next to you. She was trying to get
Mhm.
like uh, I think like tadpoles or something out of the slot machine.
It
I
was
love that.
fantastic. That
I
was a
love
lot of
that.
fun.
Yeah, I like gambling with fake money.
Yeah,
Right? It's
yeah, it's
fun
great.
that
It's
way.
great when it's not real money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's
Um,
the part about the downtime that bothers me is because like the timing of a lot of these things are too realistic for me. And I love the idea that you can kind of burn through a day, or like maybe the hours of the day are slightly different in this fantasy world than it is in
mhm,
reality. And I think that's what attracts me to the downtime RP stuff.
yeah. Now, one of my issues with the downtime in general is that it doesn't personally burn through. It doesn't burn through gold fast enough. Like players players get a lot of treasure. There are
Yeah.
not a lot of opportunities in D&D to spend that treasure other than like buying magic items.
Yeah. Or in our case, donating to the keep.
Right, but I mean like unless but I mean like you could say that that's like a downtime activity. So
Yeah.
if if there are good structured downtime activities that the party can invest their money in and see a return, whether that be narratively or mechanically, uh, then I think that's great because it gives
Yeah.
a party a reason other than whatever like minor story reason or whatever they're doing. It's
Hmm.
like we just go around and raid dungeons. Why? Because we're supporting this keep. We need,
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm investments that we make in it show tangible returns. I can,
Could
the
also
DM
be.
describes the buildings that they're building. We get to see, the marketplace begin to thrive because we cleaned it up and invited, better merchants in to get us cooler magic items and or other strange exotic things for sale. New NPCs are coming through the area because we invested in a tavern and inn, and we're seeing it thrive. And now we get all kinds of interesting information about dungeons or
Yeah.
issues that are happening, adventures that we can go on.
I
Just
think a
giving the
good.
party something to dump that gold in.
Yeah, I'd also say like tying back into the factions thing, if you had more so instead of like, oh, you're doing certain missions or doing certain things to make certain factions happy, it would also be interesting for individual player or characters too. Say they belong to different factions or whatever, they could spend that gold supporting that faction, and that plays out either narratively or mechanically in the game.
Hmm.
I would like to see more of that because that would, it's like more tangible, I feel, instead of just like, oh, we heard you did this thing.
Right.
Like it kind of reminds me of like paying off the mob bosses or whatever,
Right.
like,
Like you did a
yeah,
favor for the
like,
mob boss.
Yes.
yeah. And
So
that would be I
so on
feel
this,
like a
the
good
day
way
of
to
his daughter's
dump a
wedding,
bunch of
he
money.
owes you a favor.
Yeah.
Hell
You
yeah.
come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Right.
So we're doing a heist mafia campaign next.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a casino.
That
We're
would
gonna
be
we're gonna
so
Ocean's 11 this. It's gonna
fun.
be great.
Ocean's 11, yeah.
Yes, that would be so fun. It's gonna be probably oops all rogues, but that's okay.
And
I was gonna
one
say oops
bard.
all rogues or oops all bards, yeah,
Yeah,
because
oops all bards.
distraction.
Or it could be like, Cap- Captain Crunch with berries. The
Right?
berries are the rogues and the crunch are the bards.
Now, one of the interesting ones that interacts again with a system that is very rarely like used in the way it was originally designed is there's a sowing rumors downtime.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So you
I've
may
played with
want
this
to
a little
sow
bit.
dissent or spill the tea amongst the realm's residents. You can do this by spending your downtime sowing rumors.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the size of the town, you must spend a certain amount of days working to spread the rumors and a gold piece per day as well. I guess like greasing the palms of having tea with the people, or going and paying for drinks and saying some things. But
Yeah.
anyway, at the end, you get to make a charisma, deception, or persuasion check to shift the
Mm-hmm.
attitude of the people using the social encounters system, a system that almost nobody uses in
Yeah.
D&D.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that at all.
But I think for a interesting like political game, this is a fun downtime activity that I would like to
I've
have
definitely
seen
played
an
it.
adventure kind of
I
showcase a little
I
bit
would
more.
love to see that. I would love to see that where you just have, because that's where your bards come in, and possibly anybody who's like a wordy person, a charismatic character would do that in general, going into a
Mm-hmm.
tavern
Yeah,
and
this is
saying, "Hey, the latest news is this." And or some of the other ones are like, "Hey, this thing is happening, but you didn't hear it from me."
Mm-hmm. I had a I had a tiefling rogue bard that basically was doing this, like where they were getting all the muck, you know, and they befriended everybody, whether it was friend or foe, to just get information because like knowledge, or at least like controlling the narrative, was key, and then in turn, like they would feed this information to whoever was paying them,
Right,
but they would a lot of times use that money to for favors, or they would pay to have a performer perform for, say a noble who I knew controlled a certain like area of land or a gate or something, and made them more favorable to then, maybe tell me more information about, whatever was happening. I loved that game. I'm so sad the campaign ended. Would love to do something like that again because it was really fascinating, but also you had to be careful who you were telling some of these secrets to, because you didn't know if, say, there was like an opposing faction or person who was also doing the same thing, for whoever they were working for, um I love stuff like that. Love, 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 you know it's like,
yeah,
oh, pay attention to this dancing lady while I, tell me more about like what you hate about the king. It was
right.
great. It was great.
No, I think this down. I would like to see an adventure, a published adventure that shows me what the designers intended to showcase this kind of gameplay, and in like the social, that uses the social encounter system a little bit more heavily, that uses this downtime activity to kind of influence it. Uh, I would like to see more of that. Just maybe one, even if it was just one book, just so that I
Yeah.
had uh, an option to reference, just so I had an idea of what was the intention. Because
Hmm.
it's a good seed. It's just not fully developed.
It's not like they have like a table for the social encounters like they do some of the other stuff.
They do, but it's not great.
Hmm.
It's a very small like table. It's kind of like, these people are angry at you, they're indifferent to you, they're, on your side kind of. I think it's maybe like a 6-step table if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Uh where like the lowest form is like they are hostile to you, and the highest end is like they're your best friend kind of, you know.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it eliminates nuance.
there are like some I want to say spells that kind of interact with this in a few
Yeah,
ways, where they like
yeah.
shift how somebody feels about you briefly, and then, if it's like the friend spell, like they immediately know afterwards and they're angry about it.
Mhm. And there's
Because,
some people who like, yeah, if they happen to be high, what is it, wisdom or something,
mhm,
and you try to charm them into being your friend to get information, they'll like know about it and get
right.
pissed at you for doing so. Yeah.
So, like I said, the system exists. but it's one that never really got a lot of play and then kind of got thrown off to the wayside. And I just I would like to see it used a little bit better.
I've only had it be successful in like Baldur's Gate, to
Yeah.
be honest. Like, yeah, that's the only place I've actually seen it like have the consequences and such like that. That was the only
Mm-hmm.
time. But they're able to micromanage all of your interactions there, you know, which I think is harder for the average DM to do.
Hmm.
It can't be. Yeah, it is.
Now, one of the last ones, or actually the last one on the DMG, that is more relevant, I guess, to players, um, is the training to gain levels downtime
Mm.
activity. Um, it's less a downtime activity specifically, more it's a variant rule that just lives in that section. Um, but basically, the players can spend gold and time to advance their levels, and it varies. There's a table that basically depends on what level they are advancing to, and then each tier of play tacks on like an extra 10 days worth of training and an extra 20 gold on top of that. Uh, this weirdly enough harkens back to how leveling happened back in the like first edition era because gold was technically experience.
Yeah,
So the more gold you got, the more experience you got, which let you level up faster.
I remember.
And they didn't care like what you did with the gold after you got it, but the earning the gold or earning your percentage of the treasure was effectively a 1-to-1, one gold, one experience exchange.
Hmm.
Um, so this kind of harkens back to that, where you can spend a little bit of time and some money and just go up in level.
Yeah,
And they just called it training.
so silly. So silly.
It sounds like it's super silly.
I mean, I guess it's arguably like if the DM didn't want, well, I guess if the DM wanted to hand wave the party going up some levels during like a break, but also wanted to deplete their gold by a lot, they could be like, "Yep, you guys
Like, go to
spent some time and
college.
some gold and went to training and came out with a
Yeah.
degree in doing your thing."
That's what I'm saying. They went to college because it costs a ton of money, and then it's years of your life you're not going to get back. So,
Right.
they just go be an apprentice for a while, and then come back and we'll fight
Came
more
out with a
monsters.
doctorate in stabbing.
First class is Murder Hobo 101.
Murder tramping 101. Yeah.
101. And then the next class above it is Murder Homeowner.
Yeah. Then above that, murder
Torture
investor.
specialist.
Murder
I got my degree in torture specialism.
Murder
Step up
Mayor.
from there, vulture capitalism.
That's fantastic.
Oh my god, that'd be perfect for like a roadside
Yeah.
bard if or that's yeah. It's a great
Yes.
name for somebody who just like holds up wagons on the roadside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Bludgeoning yeah, whatever.
yeah. But anyway, so that's training. It exists, I guess. It's there. I don't foresee a lot of DMs or players tech. Well, I foresee players seeing it and being like, "Oh, I can just use downtime and go up levels." And the DM goes, "Here's the deal. Uh, this game only works if you're all the same level in the party. So you all can decide to do this, or we're not doing it."
One of the
Yeah.
most infamous games I've ever been in is we had a player who wanted to retrain his skills. Instead of the DM just going, yeah, you could just change your character into whatever, the DM decided to go, hey, so uh he needs time to train his character. So, do we want to do that, or do we want to continue on with the plot? And we didn't think anything of it as players. We were like, it's fine. We got plenty of time. It'll be all right. And we spent 4 weeks in a cave while he trained his character to be the class that he was supposed to be. And then apparently that ended up causing the world to collapse because we took too long sitting in a cave while he trained. Was like,
You leave the cave, it's just been post-apocalypsed, and you're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, this isn't how
yeah,
we.
pretty much. We just all looked at the
Water
DM and we're like,
defense
we didn't realize it was gonna be like that. Team's like, whatever.
You guys decided
That
to
was
spend
not
four
a good
weeks in a
DM,
cave.
but no, that's not a good DM. But still, it was just like, all right, fine. We just did what we had to do at the end.
Damn.
But yeah, we did that training stuff, and it was really, honestly, pointless. But we did it. That instance, and I'm like, never again,
But yeah,
never again.
yeah, no, that's all the downtime activities in the player's handbook in the DMG. Now Xanathar's guide kind of broke those out a little bit and gave some of those broader ones more like specific functions, like the not the carousing one, but like the profession one was like, here's your priest profession downtime and your fighter profession downtime, and stuff like that. But it was basically just an excuse to have you roll stats and skills that were aligned with your character as opposed to leaving it kind of open ended. And I don't know if I like that. I think I like the open ended uh, abilities a little bit better because maybe my rogue doesn't use a stat or a skill that's important to him in his downtime. Maybe he does a thing that he's not good at.
Yeah, because it's like you might have your stat block, but I think we sometimes focus on that too much and not about the core personality and like backstory of like the why your character would do something, And it's really easy to like miss that and just be like, oh well, I'm a smash 'em guy, I smash things. But it's like, yeah, if your player didn't have the opportunity to go smash goblins every other second, like what would they be doing realistically? And I think that's a good way to, I don't know, bring it back down to earth, but then also make just interesting choices in play you know
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like a weird quirk is I love to give my characters positive and negative like quirks, that have nothing to do with the skills stat sheet at all. Zero. But I just think they're fun, and like one of them was like my tiefling loves bugs of any kind, really into shiny armor, and they for what because they were involved in like a big fire whatnot when they were young, they have like a messed up sense of smell, so they can't smell anything, which I didn't think. I just thought it was going to be a fun quirk, and then I got a pet skunk, and then like we did all these other things like and it just became like a fun little flavor that like if I hadn't just put that in there in my notes that like, oh whatever, there's like a skunk and everybody else is like running from it, my character just went up and picked it up like a cat. It was
Right.
like, it's fun things to do with that that like the stat block don't cover. It's like, how do you roll for that? Sure, you can do a constitution save or whatever, but I thought it was just more interesting to have these like little flaws or quirks, or like depending what I had like a moon dice that I'd roll, every game to see what phase of the moon it's in, and then I had arbitrary rules of like how that would affect my mental state of the character. Like full moon, they might be a little more chaotic than lawful. You know what I mean? So on and so forth. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I think those are the fun like downtime choices to explore. Yeah, because it's not maybe not like worth role playing in group, but the choices you make during those downtime affect the group later on, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, any since we've basically made it to the end of the good downtime abilities, any final thoughts on downtime?
Role play more.
Yeah.
Do it more. Do it
Hmm.
more.
And it's not always about like your characters talking to each other either, and I think a lot of people get caught up in that, like, well, I'm not good at voices, I can't play D&D. And it's like, don't worry about the voices, just think about like your inner voice. What would your character be thinking or doing, or how would they react to this, you know?
Pretty much.
um yeah. And yeah, because we've definitely had it where, you know, sometimes, yeah, you do kind of gum up and they're like, okay, what next, you know? And it's good practice of the and then, you know, instead of trying to, I don't know, think of some sort of like monologue to do, is
Yeah.
instead it's like having your character do something, and then the conversation can then come
Mhm.
naturally from that instance or event that's happening, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, if you're unfamiliar with how downtime works, crack a book. There are lots of opportunities to learn how it works, and you may find some systems that you are very unfamiliar with in D&D hiding amongst the downtime. And you know, maybe they'll spawn some interesting new story moments for you, or you know, whatever. But other than that, I think we're gonna wrap this episode of Tavern Talk. This is our final episode of this particular season. Um, we've this is season 3 coming to a close. But we usually take a break over the holidays because it's very busy these wintry months. Rest, recharge a bit, and then come back usually around early spring to get started again. So it was fun chatting with you all. Thank you for hanging out with us, and for those of you hanging out with us on YouTube later and or Twitch right now, thanks for hanging out as well. Come hang out with us on our Discord. We always enjoy people swinging by, saying hi, talking some D&D, doing some other things. We have various one shots on occasion. We seem to be picking up steam in that direction at the moment. More people who show up, more people can come play with us. That's fun. If you like us a lot and stick around, maybe you can hang out on a tavern talk and chat about your fun D&D experiences with us as well. We do all kinds of cool stuff. Otherwise, if you like what we do and would like to see more of it, there is, in fact, a like and subscribe button somewhere on whichever streaming service you're looking at us at right now. If it happens to be the Twitch that you are looking at us at right now, it does have the ability to use the Twitch Prime subscription. If you are an Amazon Prime person, you get one of those for free, and you give it to us if you're not giving it to anyone else. We use that to make really interesting content. The money that we've gathered for it recently went to help buy some like music and set design for our last big campaign that was really well spent, and really our production value went up. It was nice. So more of that means we can do cooler things. So definitely hang out with us some more, and we'll see you again later. Bye.